construction of the new church set on the campus grounds at Avondale College began in May 1984 and has just been completed. There are now more than 3,000 Adventist followers in the Lake Macquarie region, and members of the Avondale College congregation gathered for the unveiling of the commemorative plaque by President of the South Pacific Division of Adventists, Pastor Walter Scragg. The spacious design of the building allows for a congregation of 960, and attending today's special service were college residents Lindy and Michael Chamberlain. Pastor Hire says that they've waited a long time for their meeting place.
Well, it's a great thrill, particularly for college students and staff members at Avondale College. We've never had a church building here, although the place has been operating for nearly 90 years. So it's a first in that respect, and the students and staff and members here on the campus are really thrilled.
It's a modern design. What are some of the highlights featured?
I think probably one highlight is the way in which the congregation is ranged in the main sanctuary. It's very much, the preacher feels that the congregation is gathered all round, both on the ground floor and in the galleries, makes for intimate and warm communication, which we're very pleased about.
The acoustic qualities and atmosphere of the church were taken full advantage of by the choir and brass fanfare.
The boys and officials, including sponsors who kindly helped with the finance of the month-long trip, had been in the air and on the road for 45 hours, but were pleased nonetheless to see sunlight in abundance, something they'd not seen since Christmas. Their manager, John Verner, told me about the touring party.
We come from Mönchengladbach, the town between Cologne and Düsseldorf. It's 50 kilometers from each city.
A very pretty area, I believe, too, I've heard.
Yeah, pretty good. Near the River Rhine.
Lovely.
Lovely, yeah.
How old are the boys?
Under 15.
Good side?
I hope so.
Do you know much about the Australian standard of soccer?
No.
So that's a learning process, eh?
Yeah.
And whereabouts, after playing 3 games here, John, you're going, I believe, to Canberra, South Australia, Victoria? Yeah.
And Adelaide and
Melbourne.
East Melbourne.
And you've never been to Australia before?
No, never before.
Can we welcome you to Newcastle and to Australia, and I'm sure you'll have a great time?
I hope so.
Well, they said we'd all be millionaires within a couple of years. They said they were going to retire within 10 years.
Dr. David Parker and Peter Court operate an after-hours doctor service in Newcastle. It's not a big business, and they say they're happy that way. It leaves time for their windsurfing. Their one brush with the high-flying Sydney doctors started with a phone call in early February.
And we got a phone call saying that it would be in our interest to talk to these people because they had plans in starting up a 24-hour clinic in Newcastle. They said they would like to take Peter and myself out to dinner to discuss the idea of setting up this 24-hour clinic.
What happened in this restaurant on that night was not what Court and Parker expected. Rather, it was the stuff that books are made of. To start with, they were met not just by 2 doctors, but by 2 businessmen as well. Then they were lavishly wined and dined with the best that Newcastle can provide. And finally, the talk was not of medicine, but money.
They spoke about people as money-making commodities. These people said that they knew exactly what they could get away with.
Like
they
what?
said they were squeaky clean. I insisted on some sort of example, and they gave the example of they could do, I forget the exact figure at this moment, they could do a certain number of MBAs, that's multiple biochemical analysis.
Pathology tests.
Yes, but they said they knew what they could get away with. They knew exactly how many they could order and stay squeaky clean.
In what way was Dr. Edelson brought into the conversation?
They wished to basically duplicate his service before he arrived here. They did mention they were his employees, or worked for him, or worked as a contractors to him.
So the two doctors claimed to be wanting to break away from Edelson?
Yes.
They made it very clear at the time that they were a separate group. They made it very clear that they weren't doing any of this on his behalf. They were quite separate to him.
Did they give you the feeling that they considered this a clandestine meeting?
Well, yes, I would say so. Yes, they made it clear that we could not contact them directly, that we would contact an intermediary who would then call them and they would call me back.
The contact these two were given was even more curious than the rest of the incident. Court and Parker were told to ring none other than Father Nichols at the Greek Orthodox Church in Newcastle. The two Sydney doctors explained this away by saying they felt their own phones were bugged by a competitor. As for Father Nichols, he says yes, he does know one of the doctors, an Iranian, who he describes as a close friend and a good family man.
They were very impressive, they were very intense, determined people. I was struck by that determination. They made it clear that they stated they already had specialists recruited from different fields of medicine.
In this area?
They didn't say where they came from, but they said they had them already recruited to commence work in Newcastle.
So if you would play their game, you could fly into action almost straight away?
That's right. They said they were planning to open up within a couple of months.
But after the bait of millions of dollars came the threats.
They, I thought, were very careful not to threaten Peter and I directly. They never said that they would do anything to us, but they did mention that type of thing and bring it into that sort of ball game. They said that if their competitor turned up in Newcastle, he would be happy to arrange accidents and injuries to ourselves and our families, and had done this sort of thing in the past. That sort of statement in the middle of a discussion about medical matters was quite startling to me. I had no idea why they brought it up at the time.
What followed.
We'd all had a few
Dr.
drinks
Parker
at that stage,
and Peter
all of
Court
a sudden I
knocked
found
back
myself talking
what
about
many would
accidents
see
and
as the
injuries, and I
chance of a
felt very
lifetime,
threatened by the whole
and 2
thing.
days later, a brick, complete with crude
True or not,
message,
I
was
think
thrown
they
through their surgery
were bringing
window.
up that.
Why did you attach that brick necessarily to the doctors and the two businessmen?
There was no vandalism inside the surgery. There was no attempt to take any drugs, which someone might have thought were there. There was just there seemed to be no other reason. They were very, very confident about being able to make a success of this type of thing here.
No, I really think they thought they had a gold mine.
According to coach Roy Drinkwater, former captain of Newcastle United, Austral players are in top form for the forthcoming soccer season.
Well, we're quite happy. We've played 3 pre-season games and we've won all 3, so you can't really do any better than that.
What about the makeup of the team?
Well, we've signed Davy Jones from Rosebud United, a National League player. We've signed 2 strikers from England, plus a couple of local players, and we've got a good blend of experience and youth, so we're quite happy.
The team has definitely benefited from the presence of Kevin Meacock, a former Cardiff City player. The 22-year-old striker has been with the team for only 1 week, yet last Sunday scored both goals in the match against Warringah in Sydney. Roy Drinkwater says he'll be the man to watch on Saturday.
I would say, yeah, a very good player to watch. Yeah. Kevin played in New Zealand, and then he went back to England and played, he signed a 2-year contract for Cardiff City in the 2nd Division. He played 21 games for Cardiff, he scored 5 goals. And he was released this year, and that's where we stepped in.
This Friday, Austral score a second new player, Robert Holden, a former Scunthorpe player from Newcastle, England.
Yeah, Robbie's he's only 20, and he's played for Scunthorpe in the 3rd Division in England, and he's a centre forward or winger, and apparently he's very quick, and he likes to score goals as well, so we're looking to score a few this year.
population are from non-English speaking backgrounds. When these people need help, the problem of communicating adds stress to an already difficult situation. 3 officers from the Newcastle Ambulance Service were issued with badges today, which identify them as being able to speak languages other than English. The badges bear the flags of the country of origin of the language. Ambulance officer Tony
pass not being identified by a badge?
I think so. People try to speak English as much as they can, and but sometimes we get bogged in just using our hands, you know. But I think with those badges, people will see that they can speak their own language, you know, if they want
Tony
to.
speaks Italian, French and German. 2 other officers issued with the badges speak German, Macedonian and Serbian.
That these particular officers have
Keith
come in
Williams
contact
says the new
with
ambulance language service will complement the existing translator service operating throughout the Hunter.
These officers are rostered on shift for 8 hours out of the 24, and of course it's impossible to cover all situations. However, where it is known that these officers could be of assistance with their language and they're on shift, they would be sent out to the particular situation to act as an interpreter.
At this meeting at Broadmeadow in January, Ancillary staff, who are members of the Public Service Association, voted to campaign for the same permanent employee status as other public servants. Ancillary staff, which include teachers, aides and office staff at schools, have always been classified as temporary employees. Under changes to the staffing formula for schools this year, many ancillaries have been cut from full to part-time work or transferred with little or no warning. The work bans in support of their claims began on Monday and, according to the PSA, will continue for another 5 weeks. Ancillary staff are refusing to perform one duty each week, including answering telephones, stenciling and photostatting. According to the PSA, its members who refuse duties are being stood down.
We are saying the department is standing us down. The Public Service Board has taken the action that no work is directed, then no pay.
The Area Director of Education, Alan Beard, says the department is not standing down the staff but considers them to be on strike.
If a member of the PSA declines to carry out a specific duty, which is what they are doing, then they are instructed to do that duty, and if they still decline, they're told that they need not perform any other duties and that they can stay on the job if they wish to, but they will be considered to be on strike.
The Education Department seems unconcerned by the bans. Mr Beard says an average of only 8% of ancillary staff are observing them. The PSA says the figure is more like 85% and that the bans will continue. PSA members will hold stop work meetings throughout the state on the 25th of this month.
It was a taste of what you can expect in the Washington State Forest this weekend as 3 members of the host club, the Central Coast Dirt Riders, went through their paces on private property at Jesmond today. This weekend, up to 150 motorcyclists will take to the Wadigans for this endurance test of man and machine. It looks like a lot of fun, but just imagine doing this continuously for the 6 to 7 hours it will take most to complete the 200-kilometre course. Riders from throughout the state and interstate will be here, and as it's the first of the 5-round state series, a number of state champions will be among them. Favourite for the event is current Australian reliability champion Kelly Gronquist. From the time the event gets underway at 9 o'clock at the Dooralong Gun Club, the riders will be hurtling through the bush at speeds of up to 140 kilometres an hour, on everything from single-lane bike tracks to forestry roads.
Hello, I'm Mark Matho, and tonight I'll be reporting from the Narong State Forest near Raymond Terrace, where 300 soldiers have been participating in the largest Army Reserve exercises held in Australia this year. They've been using armoured personnel carriers and helicopters, as you'll see tonight.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
The overall cure rate, and cure is a very difficult thing to measure, but the overall cure rate would be at least 50 to 60%. And so, but yes, there would be probably 100 women die of breast cancer in the Hunter every year.
Dr. Stewart says that the earlier cancer can be detected, the more the outlook is improved. But how many women know how to do a breast self-examination? An examination should be made on routine, on the day after each period, or on the same day each month if you have passed the menopause. An examination can be made in the shower. Wet, soapy skin makes it easier to feel your breast structure. In the mirror, you may notice something you couldn't feel with your hands, or lying down. To examine your right breast, place a pillow or folded towel under your right shoulder and put your right hand behind your head to flatten the breast on the chest wall. With the other hand, fingers flattened together, thoroughly examine the breast, either in segments or expanding circles. For the left breast, do the opposite.
Most breast lumps aren't cancerous, and secondly, that if a woman practices regular breast self-examination, is likely the cancer will be detected earlier. And if that's the case, and the lump, as I emphasise again, most lumps aren't cancerous, but if it is cancerous, there are alternative procedures that can be performed with small lumps that can mean conservation of the breast.
TK on NBN and both for
the aspect of the emergency work in the Hunter Valley, police, ambulance.
present state, and it'll probably advance a little bit more. I think it's getting at the stage now.
What changes can you see?
Physical culture is perhaps best described as a mixture of ballet and aerobics, yet it goes one step further, promoting good grooming, deportment and confidence. Girls as young as 5 years of age may take part in classes, and as there is no upper age limit, mothers may accompany their daughters. Although interest in physical culture has declined in recent years, organiser Chris Powley believes its benefits are just as relevant today.
I think it's still very important. I don't think there's too many things available for girls apart from going to, say, modelling school. And we can provide all of that for them. Interest definitely is waning. Once upon a time there was over 3,000 people doing it in Newcastle. Now I think that's around about 2,000. And I think it's just a competition from a lot of other activities in the area.
There are 12 physical culture classes scattered throughout Newcastle. They have performed well in statewide competitions.
Newcastle zone's done very well over the last 10 years. The majority of girls that we saw today have been state finalists at one time or another, and we currently have 11-year-old state champion.
Some of Newcastle's top performers can be seen on both Saturday and Sunday at the Toronto Trade Fair.
I'm Matthew Clark. A Newcastle company today started exporting one of its locally manufactured products to Papua New Guinea, where it hopes a $500,000 annual market will open up.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Here in Newcastle, Palm Sunday once again created considerable interest. As in recent years, the large crowd which gathered in Pacific Park for an ecumenical service seemed to represent a wide cross-section of the local community. The service itself was organised by Christians for Peace, and the crowd were asked to hold palm leaves aloft to recall the triumphant arrival of Jesus in Jerusalem. The palms also signalled the start of the march. Once again, it was the threat of nuclear war that was the subject of most of the banners. Although the subject is grim, the marchers were in a festive mood as the procession made its boisterous way to Civic Park. The park was used by a number of peace groups to peddle their ideas, but a number of people were more interested in paddling in the water. For the rest of the afternoon, the audience was entertained by theatre, music and speeches, all aimed at giving the public something to think about until next year.